DLC is confirmed for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but will we see an expansion of Paradox Pokemon? Hey everyone, it's Dusty GoGo. Welcome back to my headcanon. Highly credible leakers have confirmed that DLC will come in 2023, but we don't quite know what will be in these expansions. Personally, I want to learn more about Area Zero and discover new Paradox Pokemon. There are two sections of the Paldean map that are blurred and purposefully hint at further exploration. We have this northeastern mountain range that many believe to be Southern Kalos, and then we also have Area Zero. Today we're going to classify and determine which Pokemon are eligible to become Paradox Pokemon. I think the DLC will allow us to go further into the future or past and discover new Paradox Pokemon that didn't make their way to modern Paldea. But first, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. The only games I played growing up were handheld, turn-based RPGs. And now Raid Shadow Legends has taken over. And now Raid just added a new faction called the Sylvan Watchers. Forest elves, tree spirits, rock monsters. These are my favorite types of monsters, and the Sylvan Watchers has it all. The Sylvan Watchers made their home in the Mistwood. My favorite is Dwayden the Runic. Mine's at level 60 and would be a dark and ghost type. Raid has prepared something special for all new players this Christmas. Get ready to celebrate the 12 days of Raid. All you have to do is download Raid, copy your player ID, and then go to 12daysofraid.plarium.com. Set out on a fun festive adventure that lasts 12 days from December 19th to January 10th. Play a new minigame for a chance to win some amazing in-game and real-life prizes, including holiday-themed Raid champions and even Amazon gift cards worth up to $1,000. And for existing Raid players, head to 12daysofraid.plarium.com to find a special holiday promo code. Raid also released a legendary champion based on the MMA and pro wrestling legend Ronda Rousey. You can get Ronda free right now just by logging in and playing Raid for 7 days between now and February 20th. Just enter promo code RAIDRONDA in-game and all of these goodies can be yours. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click the link in my description or scan my QR code here on the screen. You'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion Chinoru, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 epic skill tome. Thank you Raid for sponsoring. I'll see you in the game, and now back to the video. In the 2 expansion passes for Pokemon Sword and Shield, Game Freak introduced around 15 new Pokemon and forms. I think it's very likely that we see a similar amount of Paradox Pokemon introduced in the Scarlet and Violet DLC. First, let's look at the Scarlet and Violet books that are in-game. Here we can see potentially 3 undiscovered Pokemon. We have some sort of Paradox fusion of the Johto legendary beasts, and another Paradox fusion of what looks to be the Swords of Justice. I think we're definitely going to see these 2 Pokemon in DLC, but we also have the 3rd legendary, which I don't think is a Paradox, but will be the creator of the Paradox Pokemon. This 3rd legendary is going to help explain whether or not these Paradox Pokemon are actual time travelers, and it's that simple, that they're just from the past or the future, or if this 3rd legendary Pokemon is interpreting or imagining what Pokemon could look like and then bringing them to life. I love this Pokemon right here, Rage Crest. This is a past Paradox of Nidoking. This Pokemon resembles a gigantic Pokemon described in an old book as a Nidoran from 1 billion years ago. This Paradox Nidoking would be ground and dragon type. I really like the dragon type on Nidoking. Even though you capture this Pokemon pretty early in most games as a Nidoran, it's got this otherworldly dragon energy. I think a lot of existing Paradox Pokemon should have been given the dragon type. I'm looking at Slitherwing specifically. And a really cool future Paradox Pokemon is Iron Stereo. This is a future Paradox Nidoqueen. Its core can generate high frequency screams. This Paradox Nidoqueen would be poison and fairy type. I think we could also see a fusion Paradox. This Pokemon, whether it's past or future, would combine elements of both Nidoking and Nidoqueen. We see this already with Iron Valiant combining Gallade and Gardevoir into one. So my first theory is all about Area Zero. I think players will be able to go back into Area Zero and somehow reactivate the time machine. We'll be able to access the past or future, and then we can explore everything within Area Zero, starting from the bottom, traveling up to the surface, It's like the plot of a Fallout game. You exit the time machine totally unscathed and unchanged, but the world around you is completely different. Even though you're familiar with Area Zero at this point in the game, it's completely different, and it's filled with new Paradox Pokemon. I want to learn more about Arven's parents. I want to learn about Heath, the third legendary, and of course the mystery surrounding Paradox Pokemon. Mechanically, I don't think we're going to be allowed to exit Area Zero. And think of it like this: if we're trapped in Area Zero, the Pokemon that exist there naturally, this is the roster of Pokemon that would likely have either past or future forms. There are 2 key Pokemon in Area Zero already that might play a big role in the DLC. The first Pokemon is obviously Floette. This is the Pokemon most closely tied to the character AZ, the man who set off the Great Weapon 3,000 years ago, and his Floette has a unique form called the Eternal Flower. There are countless theories tying Area Zero to the Kalos region. I think placing Floette in the Great Crater of Paldea was a very deliberate choice by Game Freak. I think it's very possible that we see a Paradox form of Floette in the DLC. Another Pokemon of note is Glimmora. Glimmora was highlighted with every other Paradox Pokemon during the post-game story. Glimmet and Glimmora are very unusual Pokemon, to say the least. I think there might be some sort of connection between Glimmora and the third legendary. I also love that they put Raichu in Area Zero. It makes me wonder if they could give us a past form of Raichu that essentially fills the role of the beta leaked Pokemon Gorochu. This Pokemon, Thunderous Cheeks, would be electric and fighting type. I really love this design. The giant tail, the Gen 1 horn on its head, and the dark amber color on its body. I love this so much. I also think Venomoth, Golduck, and Hypno are very boring Gen 1 Pokemon. There's a lot of cool species in this pool of Pokemon. Would love if those get some sort of buff. These Gen 1 Pokemon are just like purple, blue, and yellow blobs. Give these Pokemon some life, incorporate some new design elements, make them look more primal or more future. Venomoth would be really cool as a future Pokemon, and I'd love to see Golduck as this ferocious Kappa that it's supposed to be based on. You know, Chansey is kind of boring as well. I know it does have an evolution, but this Paradox concept, Iron Nurse, shows a futuristic Paradox of Chansey as a normal and fire type. You can see it's incubating a Pokemon egg. Chansey always has an egg in its pouch, but I like the idea that this Pokemon could almost be like a utility for humans in order to speed up the incubation process. Thus the fire type, right? Like it's like a safe furnace that heats and incubates these newborn eggs. Go-Goat is also on this list. This is the original Ride Pokemon. Just like Cyclizar, I'd love to see Go-Goat get a past and future Paradox form, just like the box legendaries. That's a little bit of wishful thinking, but I still think it'd be very cool. Corviknight, Garganacl, Lokix are all really cool Pokemon. Varoom especially, right? Varoom is some sort of mixture between technology and the past. It's a car engine, but it's got these just like simple boulders on its body. I think all of those they could do something really interesting with. And then we have the Dreepy line. The Dreepy line is available in Area Zero, and we have these 2 depictions of what their Paradox Pokemon could look like. Iron Jet would be a ghost and flying type Pokemon. Iron Jet was created in order to explore unknown and dangerous worlds for humans. It has camouflage systems that allow it to go unnoticed by latent threats. Its programming forces it to behave peacefully unless it detects imminent danger. Taking advantage of its aerodynamic design, it will move at high speed to avoid attacks and counterattack. I love how the baby Dreepy on the original design are turned into these heat-seeking missiles. Dragapult is a dragon and ghost type that was said to die off, but once lived in the water. This past Paradox form, Depth Fear, brings that design to life. Depth Fear is very territorial and confrontational. At the slightest provocation, it will attack other Pokemon. I love how this design answers old questions and expands the existing lore. So next I want to take a look at the Mega Pokemon list. There is an amazing theory by my friend the Lumios Post that states Mega Evolution is triggered through the DNA of past Paradox Pokemon. Mega Evolution is all about pushing Pokemon past their limits, and I think that there are a lot of Mega designs that can be seen as past or future forms. Mega Charizard X reflects a primal dragon gene once present in the past and Mega Charizard Y demonstrates the future of Charizard and how it could evolve to further rely on its wings in flight combat. This is just a theory, but there's no denying the similarities between Mega Salamence and Roaring Moon. Come to think of it, Iron Valiant seems to have a lot in common with Mega Gardevoir and Mega Gallade. Here are all the Pokemon that have access to Mega Evolution and appear in Area Zero. Sableye, Medicham, Camerupt, Altaria, and Garchomp all appear in Area Zero and have access to Mega Evolution, at least in the Kalos region. I could easily see all of these Pokemon having past or future Paradox forms in the DLC, and I think the possibility of Kalos DLC makes this even more exciting, especially because Mega Evolution hasn't returned in so long, and if it's gonna return ever, now is the time for it to return to the main series. Here's another design I've been dying to show off. This is called Primal Flame. It's a Psychic and Fire type Paradox Kadabra. This creature is similar to a Pokemon described in Paranormal Magazine as a Kadabra from 1 billion years ago. I've never been a fan of Kadabra, but this design literally would be, honestly, probably a top 25 Pokemon of all time for me. I think this is such a cool design, the pose, everything. It's not even that drastic of a change. For whatever reason, replacing the spoon and giving it a magic wand is so cool for me. And I think Kadabra would make a lot of sense because obviously Alakazam gets a Mega form. Another Pokemon that gets a Mega form that I would love to see brought into Scarlet and Violet and then get a Paradox form would be Beedrill. This is Iron Stinger. It's a bug and electric type future Paradox Pokemon. As you can see, it's got these charge blasters. It almost looks like it has the Terra Crystals in its hands, and that's almost like what fuels these energy beams that would be shooting out of its stinger. Again, this is one of the coolest Paradox Pokemon concepts that I've ever seen. Would love to train any of these. You know, Gengar got a Mega Evolution. This is Fuzzy Trickster, the past Paradox form of Gengar. This prankster will run around rubbing up against people with its thorny fur coated in toxins that the Pokemon secretes, resulting in some itchy rashes. I love that they made this a normal type, suggesting that once Gengar was not a ghost, it was not dead, it was alive. So we've talked about Area Zero, we've talked about Mega Evolution, and now the third classification of Pokemon that I think could get new Paradox forms is the Fossil Pokemon. Or at least they should get new forms. Fossil Pokemon were introduced in Generation 1, and I think a lot of fans have been dying to see what these Pokemon looked like when they roamed the land before they were resurrected with modern technology and burdened with the rock typing. Not only do I want to know what these Pokemon looked like back in the day, but also what could these Pokemon look like in the future. In every game, you get a fossil and you resurrect something from the past, but that is only possible because of modern technology. What would happen if you take this Pokemon and just launch it into the stratosphere? And a Pokemon like Aerodactyl is rock and flying type as we know it as a resurrected fossil, but what was it back in the day? What was that rock typing? Was it a dragon? Was it fire type? And then if we find an Aerodactyl as a future Paradox, what could its type be then? The fossil Pokemon that we know are interpretations of extinct Pokemon, Pokemon that no longer exist. Scientists take the DNA and recreate these things in our modern age. I think Paradox Pokemon are very similar to this, and we might discover that the third legendary is taking artifacts and recreating these Paradox Pokemon in an altered image. I'd love to hear what Pokemon you think are eligible to get Paradox forms in the DLC. Thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck hunting.